Something that I'm also testing still at this moment. I say build a metaphor language and analogies. You can see that in the way people talk, they always have some solution which hides this experience that they want, that is in some even in some metaphor that we use. And that's something you can use as a to continue the conversation with them. So if someone says that he feels like when he makes an insurance claim that it's like a luxury liner, you could ask them, why is it a luxury liner? Now, they could explain that it would be that you treat it well, you get everything you want, but only it's so slow before they pay out. So you can go, okay, how about that? Then you find out what's really the problem, that it's slow, and then you can elaborate it further on and see what metaphor would fit it. You could say it would be an airliner, for instance. Okay, and how can we create this airliner for you when it goes for insurance? So that will be an idea that I'm still working on to find out. So now you see, I got this protocol that I think I made a road, but it still doesn't show that it works. What about the evidence? I'm going to show you two. Also a telecom provider. It's a subsidiary of the largest telecom provider in the Netherlands, which is really a small telecom provider. It's called Hi. In this case, what we did was also first we invited something like 30 possible existing customers to for two-week periods to maintain a diary on the use of the cell phone, to write down every use that they made of it, and in case they had some particular good idea on making the use better or the experience better, they should also write it down. This is a physical example of the diary, but they could also do it online or even on their cell phone. Afterwards, they send it in. Some of them were invited to do a personal interview, 12 of them. We had this personal interview and dig deeper into what their needs were. And based on these insights, we had also, again, 2 sessions consisting of 8 customers, potential customers, on generating new ideas for services by this telecom provider, and evaluating these ideas and then selecting some. So that was the process that we did. This was the winning idea. One of the problems that people had, I say winning, but that was the best idea that came out. One of the problems with all these people was they had no idea of the usage, especially when you were abroad and you don't realize that you are rolling or something. You're very surprised if you get the bill afterwards saying how much you have used. People are not aware of this information. So this dashboard was suggested. You have on your cell phone that you can always call upon to see what your usage was at that moment. We had a cartoonist along with the sessions who made all the SDs visual immediately, so you can have your visualization that will help on evaluating the idea. We have some photographs on what was happening. It was also a videotape. We made a movie of it, which is regrettably in Dutch, so I can't show you that. The ideas that were made were written on post-its. They are discussed. Everybody presented their ideas. They were discussed, elaborated upon what they were, and then visualized on these. Another idea, for instance, was this high box of records. People that could, based on the usage, you could try to make some records. So you could, that's really from a company viewpoint, that would be nice. People using the cell phone a lot for SMSs or for And for the hours that they're using that, and or in this instance, this analogy that is made, paal zitten, sitting on a pole in Holland is something that is being done every year to see who sits the longest time on this pole. So you can make this analogy. If you can even this record, you get a nomination, and everybody can see that you've broken that record of thousand. And another evidence that I have is that's here in Eastern Europe. I call it Eastern Europe. There's a car import in Europe. I cannot mention the country which it's in, but I can assure you that it's been done. It's done by Hyundai brand. What is that case? This importer was dealing with a lot of disloyal customers. They had a lease on Hyundai, drove it for 3-4 years, and then switched to another brand. What they wanted to do was to improve this this customer loyalty. So they coincidentally, this one of the managers there did his master thesis in the Netherlands, and that's the way that she got acquainted with my protocol and decided to apply my protocol in the company. And so they did it. My protocol starts with this selection of the route that you're going to by a workshop. The senior management did it. So they choose what the objectives they made, increase loyalty and the routes. They chose to do a route where they have ideation, and after this ideation to change, transfer them into concepts, and then have some concept testing with some customers. And this is what was done. Email was sent to all of them, to about 250 users who gave their ideas. These were evaluated by the company and clustered into concepts. 5 concepts were chosen from that, and 4 focus groups were held where these were presented to them, where they could also strengthen. A choice of 2 viable new customer services were chosen by these customers. One of them was a loyalty card, in which you could not only give discounts on maintenance and auto parts, but also on other possibilities. So you can increase loyalty. And the other one was maintenance insurance. I call it a maintenance insurance. You give an extra surplus on payment for your lease, in which you are guaranteed that you get all free maintenance during the use of it, and extra, beyond the guarantee period, yes? Beyond the warranty period. So you never have to pay for your maintenance on that. So these are the where you can see that in both cases we didn't do that online or something like that. It could also be done because these are usually medium-sized companies that can also do that offline and get good ideas from that. So in my lead is comfortable. I'm still working on more evidence for the protocol universe, and also refining this protocol, because every day I get new insights on how things really work and so on. So right now this protocol is being changed into a protocol version 2.0, and will probably be published in the near future. I'm coming to the end. It shows that maybe you should read the cartoon first. It shows that, in my experience, you see a lot of companies stating that they're talking to, they're having conversations with their customers, but they're really doing that in a real indirect mode. So they're using market research, insights that other companies have gathered and so on, or reading news and such, to get a perception of what is living customer that really never got into the real conversation. And I think that would be the starting edge of this co-creation idea, that you have, first thing to do would be is start this conversation. Really have a direct conversation. And you will hear that there are, even with ordinary users, can be really good ideas that give you something that you can build upon, that will create new services, new products, and so on. Not all of them will be cutting edge ideas. I agree on that, because it's something that lead users usually really do. But I think that not every business is really looking for radical ideas every time. So you also could use real improvements and incremental ideas that can also be used. So I think co-creation is not something that is exclusively to be done to radical new ideas, but it could also be done for these incremental improvements. So just start talking to your customers. I hope this illustrates what are the journey I've been through these past years and what resulted in. But to tell you the truth, I don't think I'm at the end of the road yet. I still have a long way to go and to improve this pavement of the road every day. Yeah, thank you for your attention.
Well, now I invite also Frank to join this discussion. So you are free to ask.
What is your picture for the next 5 years? So could you see what is coming up in the next 5 years? Technological, driven co-creation, or do you think?
Well, on the technology side, I don't know what is your opinion on that, but I don't see, I think we have a lot and it will improve, perhaps go mobile. I think what I would like to see, but I don't know if it will happen in the next 5 years, but it will take the next 10 years, that really more and more companies are doing it as a practice and not just as a pilot. And think of mass customization. We are talking since 20 years of mass customization, and most companies are still not doing it on a large scale, established companies. So probably with co-creation, it will take another 10 years that really companies do it routinely. They will start a pilot, there will be some pioneers. So, from my opinion, I think this is what will happen in the next years, that companies really just starting to do it.
Well, to my opinion, I think technology again is an enabler to facilitate it and make it possible to increase your reach. So you can reach a larger crowd, a larger potential customers. But still, I think it, aside from tooling on capturing ideas and processing them and so on, I think where technology could be handy would be to create systems that really also enable this conversation, this dialogue that I'm referring to. Because a lot is still nowadays, I believe, what you call observation. As a company, you still have to do a lot of processing of all this information that you get before you can really make something out of that. Because it would be handy if you could really start a conversation in that way people are doing. I don't know whether social media is the way to do that, because in spite of all these initiatives that companies have on going to Facebook and other social media, I don't really see people really having conversations with the companies on that.
Do you think about mass customization and co-creation separately, or do you think that they can be combined in a way? Because success with mass customization can be made just by collecting the correct needs of the customers or different customer groups and combining them in a customized product. What do you think about it, or do you have any different ideas, common ideas by combination of them?
Yeah, I think you already had some examples where you combined it, huh?
Yeah, I know of one good example, Jettison, you know about it. It's in the gaming industry where this is going on, where you have something like mass customization where you can create your own surround and so on. Where you could also, aside of that, create some co-creation potential on that, on improving that mass customization. You were calling that the solution it's called configurator, improving this. So you can co-create on improving this configurator, so giving more ideas and so on. That's the only thing I can think of in mass customization is the real action.
So I would say, as every company, of course, also as a mass customizer, you can use co-creation to improve your configurator, to improve your offer. I think, but if we think I think the relation is more fundamental. Why are people co-creating? Why are lead users inventing? If they want something that is beyond the existing standard. So the original initiative why people create is as they want to have something customized, just for their needs, and perhaps for a niche market that not has been seen. So I would say it's more an alternative, like Quirky, what they are doing. They produce standard products in millions of batches. And it all starts with an individual niche that has not been utilized by a manufacturer before. So co-creation, I would see, as an alternative. And it may be, of course, I can use it exactly as you say to improve my mass customization, to learn about options. But I think, like Quirky, for me, it's an alternative strategy. One thing is, I could really use mass customization for kitchen gadgets or electronic gadgets, or I can use co-creation to better find a niche product that then I can mass produce for a larger customer segment.
Just a comment. I totally agree with you that you need to bring use in as early as possible. And in reality is, yeah, big companies, they can afford to do it. And in creative industry, like you said, a lot of small size company. And it is hard to let them to bring user at the right of the beginning. Most of the cases, they test at the end. So do you have any opinion on that side?
That's why it is difficult to bring in?
Yes, it's between the different size of companies.
Well, to tell you the truth, I can see it also in small and medium-sized companies, especially in the business-to-business context, already doing that, especially when it's what you call working in projects or engineering to order projects and so on. The customers are already involved in the earliest stage and participating. In the consumer context, why it would be difficult is because, first of all, I think most of these managers or entrepreneurs believe that you need some technological tool to facilitate that, because they are all and the other one would be in the context of the IP protection, intellectual property protection, that they're afraid of disclosure of it. So they're in search of something that will guarantee them. There would be an explanation. Let me tell that in advance, because there could be other explanations also. But they're afraid in advance that this co-creation idea will get around and with their competitors, and that their competitors would steal the idea or something like that. That's a problem that I see what we're doing. So whenever they're looking for a technological tool to do that, one of the things would be that it would be in a closed environment, that nobody can get in, that you need to use username, passwords, and so on and so on and so on. making it difficult then for consumers to take part in that, because who wants to be in such a close surrounding participating? So I think that would be one of the explanations of that. Yeah, other ideas on that? No.
Well, I would just want to comment on intellectual rights. You have mentioned that topic. I was wondering how to manage intellectual property in the process of mass co-creation on the internet, and that was my question with Quirky. I was really thinking from the beginning.
Nothing, just being quick. Everything is really revealed. So you can't patent anything.
Yes.
And it's just being fast market. As these kind of products of Quirky, they are out of fashion before the examiner of a patent even starts to read the application. So but the good thing is everything what is on these contests is freely revealed, so also your competitors can't patent. You can do, there are some like in these swirl contests I showed. There were some of the contributors, they said we submitted and we previously, as we had the idea already, applied for patent or design protection. But once, so you have to do it previously. But in general, for these idea contests, it's really just being quick to market. There's a different stream which most of us don't talk about it. You also can do it for technical problem solving, what has been called open innovation. This works perfectly in the traditional patent regime. But for the ideas, you can't patent anyway.
That is questionable, maybe. Because
There are not ideas,
there are people trying to patent ideas, and you really have a problem.
In our protocol, I also covered that if you really want to have a closed mode of new product development, so you don't need competitors to do it. So the only choice that you have is to do it as closed mode. It would be the offline mode that you exist, and have participants. It's in one case that we did it and signed non-disclosure agreements. But even that wouldn't give you any guarantee that it won't happen. But it would be done.
The open part, when you have open co-creation, is actually
I
the
would
problem.
say,
When it's closed, you can control it, and then it is fine.
But from my experience, it's really not that a patent gives the competitive advantage, but the ability to bring it to market, to have the technical knowledge, to have the market access for these kind of consumer products. Of course, if we talk about pharmaceuticals and so on, it's different.
Thank you.
Yeah, so with your method today, you talked a lot about co-creation with customers. How do you see your protocol useful if you want to do open innovation, for instance, with your suppliers, or like in open innovation more broadly? So, do you see any use of that, or example of that?
Not with suppliers, but I see possibilities for the use of my protocol also with your employees. And say resources or such context in innovation. In the case of the supplier, I would suggest would be turning around to. So the supplier would be the one
Exactly.
applying the protocol.
Yeah, there was one slide I skipped. So what we see now is a lot of co-creation is done with employees inside the firm. A lot of governments are doing it now with citizens. It's really big, one of the largest trends. So, but then you could say as a citizen you like the customer of the government. With suppliers, I agree. You would do technical problem solving, not so much idea contests. But on the other hand side, it's also blurring some of the designers submitting an idea. Perhaps they are something more like a supplier, as normally would make a contract for them, So it's really blurring in between there. It's a lot of this is done for recruitment. I don't know here at the university if you have it, but in Germany at my university, a lot of companies now set up these kind of idea contests or design contests, as they say it's better to screen students in an assessment center. So as then people come up and they submit really proofs of their work and their motivation. So this is really strong now that we have design contests or idea contests for recruitment.
I see the methods for incorporating knowledge from the supply chain or the whole value chain. It's really also lacking that whether you talk about design for X or what you call it. There's also need for similar protocols.
Maybe I could use the insight on thinking of that. Okay, I will do that.
I would just like to give you an information that was a very large content of idea. The taste of chips, the Serbian taste of chips. It is a large company still producing chips. Probably the potato chips. Probably generators of this idea of people from Pepsi because you want Pepsi. And it was this content was promoted on the television everywhere for commercials. The taste of Serbia. So there were, I don't know, a few tastes, pickles. Okay, barbecue, Serbian barbecue, and sarma. It's some kind of a meal with meat and cabbage.
McDonald's is also doing that.
Oh, tasting good. Okay, so perhaps we should co-create the coffee now.
The last question is
your cases now are focused on the US market, European market. Is there similar direct relation or other? Or is it more focused on the US and European market?
Whereas my Chinese skills are even worse than my Serbian skills, I really don't know. I don't know if you have experience, I don't know.
I know of some Asian initiatives where there's also co-creation. For instance, Singapore is doing that in its community. Everyone can submit ideas on improving the city and so on. There are a lot more of these things. I don't know whether it's the same scale that it's taking place in Europe and the Western, but it's also good.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a coffee break.
And then we'll stay here. Yeah. That a patent gives the competitive advantage, but the ability to bring it to market, to have the technical knowledge, to have the market access for these kind of consumer products. Of course, if we talk about pharmaceuticals and so on, it's different. Thank you.
Yeah, so with your event today, you talked a lot about co-creation with customers. How do you see your protocol useful if you want to do open innovation, for instance, with your suppliers, or like in open innovation more broadly? So, do you see any use of that, or example of that?
Not with suppliers, but I see possibilities for the use of my protocol also with your employees, and say resources or such context in innovation. In the case of the supplier, I would suggest would be turning around to. So the supplier would need to
Exactly.
applying the protocol.
Yeah, there was one slide I skipped. So what we see now is a lot of co-creation is done with employees inside the firm. A lot of governments are doing it now with citizens. It's really been one of the largest trends. So, but then you could say as a citizen you like the customer of the government. With suppliers, I agree, you would do technical problem solving, not so much idea contests. But on the other hand side, it's also blurring some of the designers submitting an idea. Perhaps they are something more like a supplier, as normally you would make a contract for them, so it's really blurring in between there. It's a lot of this is done for recruitment. I don't know here at the university if you have it, but in Germany at my university, a lot of companies now set up these kind of idea contests or design contests, as they say it's better to screen students in an assessment center. show, as then people come up and they submit really proofs of their work and their motivation. So this is really strong now that you have design contests or idea contests for recruitment.
I see the methods for incorporating knowledge from the supply chain or the whole value chain. It's really also lacking that whether you talk about design for X or what you call it. There's also a need for similar protocols.
Maybe I could use the insight on thinking of that. Okay. I'll do that.
I would just like to give you an information that was a very large content of idea, the taste of chips, the Serbian taste of chips. It is a large company still producing chips. Probably the generator, potato chips, probably generators of this idea of people from Pepsi, because it belongs to Pepsi. And it was this content was promoted on the television everywhere for commercials. The taste of Serbia. So there were, I don't know, a few tastes, pickles. Okay, barbecue, Serbian barbecue, and sarma. It's some kind of a meal with meat and cabbage.
McDonald's is also doing that.
Oh, tasting good. Okay, so maybe we should co-create the coffee now.
The last question is
Your cases now are focused on the US market, European market. Is there a similar direct relation or other? Or is it more focused on the US and European market?
Whereas my Chinese skills are even worse than my Serbian skills, I really don't know. I don't know if you have experience, I don't know.
I know of some Asian initiatives where there's also co-creation. For instance, Singapore is doing that in its community. Everyone can submit ideas on improving the city and so on. There are a lot more of these things. I don't know whether it's the same scale that it's taking place in the Western. It's also good.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a coffee break.
And then we'll stay here. Yeah.